Hey everyone, today we're going to be covering a quick trick with curb returns. I'm sure you've seen this before. We have our nice little drive here, our proposed surface. We have some feature lines. This is our existing drive right here for context. And it looks good here in the middle, but we start looking at this area here and it looks kind of janky here. On this side it's even worse. It looks like the curb's kind of floating out in here instead of, on this actual curb line from our background, and this looks super weird over here, so it gets even worse if we turn on 0.1 contours. This is quick properties right here, super awesome. I have this bound to a shortcut on my keyboard so I can bring it up. You see this looks awful right here. So what's going on? Why does it do this? Well, for a second, let's indulge me here. So this is a hill. These are some contours here. It's pretty steep. It's like around 4 to 1. And let's imagine that we're just going to walk in a circle on top of this hill. So we're going to take a path around here. So you can imagine up here at the very top, you're going to be kind of going left and right. So it's going to be pretty flat because you're going along the contours. Then you're going to kind of start turning here. It's going to get steeper and steeper and steeper until you're right here. It's going to get pretty steep here. And then it's going to kind of flatten out until you're flat again. So the steepness of your path is going to vary the whole way. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be one slope from here to here. It's going to be different. We can look at this in Project Explorer, which is awesome. Right click, open in Project Explorer. We can see a little profile of it here. This kind of shows you what it looks like. So you see here at the very top, it's exactly what we said. It's pretty flat. This is the elevation, and it gets kind of lower and lower. And here it's pretty steep in the middle when you're on the side, and then it kind of flattens out again. You can see that in the slopes here. So the slope is changing. So think about it, this area is pretty simple, right? It's pretty much just one slope in one direction. I mean, it varies a little bit. I had to add in some realism, But it's a pretty simple area. Mostly just slopes this way. But when you look at it along the path of an arc or a circle, it looks really complicated. Now, what do feature lines do? I have one over here. I'm going to move it over, kind of this area so we can see how it stacks up. I'm going to assign it the elevations of the surface. We can do that over here. Surface 1. Click, and let's look at it in Project Explorer. Actually, first let's just look at the slope. So you see here, it has one slope the whole way. It's 14.28 without fail. It's not 5 and then getting steeper to 20, 22 or whatever. It's just one slope the whole way. You can kind of see where this is going to be a problem. So if we look at what this looks like in profile, I'm going to quickly add a bunch of elevation points here so we can see better. We open in Project Explorer. You can see it's just a straight shot here, just a straight shot. If we look at what our surface looks like against it, you see we're actually missing the surface here. We're messing it up. We're not able to perfectly follow this surface if our grade doesn't vary here. So you see what we can do is like what we just did, added a bunch of elevation points there. Now if we assign this surface to these points, and we take a look at this again, see now we have our feature line following our surface. If we didn't do that though, it would kind of completely miss the surface in some spots. We can even see that here in 3D. Let's turn on shaded so we can kind of see a little better. Perspective and shaded. You see here, we're like kind of floating above the surface because we're sloping too hard too soon, and then over here we're kind of underneath it. So the feature line is never going to match up with your drive unless you add a bunch of extra points there. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So first things first, we can't just assign a bunch of points right now because our surface already has these feature lines added. It'll just be the same stupid elevations they already are. So we got to take these feature lines off the surface. You can do the classic oops and delete. I said that in the wrong order. Delete and then oops. And oops just brings back the last object you deleted, but the surface doesn't know to look for it, so it's not added. Or you can also do the less janky but slower feature line properties, and then go find what break line set it's in, and then remove it from that. brake line set 6, and it was the first one, so we just delete that there. And you see now it's not in here anymore. I'm going to leave 0.1 contours on just so you can see what we're doing a little better. So we need to make sure this area is triangulating correctly. So we're going to draw in a temporary feature line to kind of connect the dots from here to here. It's going to make a nice triangle for us. So this is the starting point of our arc, and this is the ending point over here. Make sure we grab the right snap point. Now we're just going to create a little temporary feature line. I'm going to make sure that this is a style that has a lower priority than the two styles I'm drawing against. That's called the feature line hierarchy. If you don't know what that is, look into it. It's super awesome. We're just going to click OK. And now we see here, if I type in QE, which is a shortcut I have for quick elevation edit, you can also get to it from here. See, we can't set these elevations, it's inheriting from them. Awesome. So I'm going to add this to the surface now. Can leave all these settings as is, and you see now it's making this kind of nice triangle here, and this is going to be perfect for adding points to this arc right here. So we need to add a bunch of elevation points. You can just do that. Click your feature line, go to the ribbon, insert elevation point, and you can just type in I for increment. You can click it here. I'm going to type in 5. I usually like to do 5 every 5 feet. You could do 4 feet, 3 feet. I don't see much reason in doing more precision than 5 feet. You see it's added a bunch of elevation points there. Now we just need to assign them the right elevation. We're going to do that by clicking the feature line and going here, just clicking this. I have a shortcut for this. I use AE for assign elevations. That's how I remember it. You can easily make that yourself. I find that just helps me go through things quicker. Now this feature line is set up to follow our surface, so we're going to delete this kind of temporary one that we drew in here. Just delete it. So now we're back to the old kind of weird janky triangles there. Now I'm going to add this to our surface. You'll see now it like kind of triangulates perfectly here. So if we turn on the regular contours we were looking at before, just the 1 foot, see now we don't have that problem at all. It follows it exactly. And the most important part, obviously, is you can offset this 0.5 for your back of curve. You couldn't do that with that weird temporary one drawn in there. Let's do that real quick. Did I just... oh. I think I don't know how to use the stepped offset command. It's supposed to specify a side. There we go. We can add this as well. See, this is awesome. This is exactly what we want. You can look at this in Object Viewer and just see how it looks. It's not going to be too exciting. I feel like the lighting's kind of weird. Nothing crazy going on, only got one side in. This will have to be redone. These elevations will have to be reassigned if you change this slope suddenly. Like if we do this 2.3, if we drastically change our drive, you see these were assigned for what the drive's previous slope here was. So it kind of stuck. It's remembering what it used to be like. So if we turn on 0.1 again, they're going to look super ugly. Yeah, super weird. So I would do this towards the end when you're kind of finishing everything, you're polishing stuff, because otherwise you're just going to have to redo it a ton. You can also use this same method on more complicated areas. Like let's say you had an area where we're sloping down at 3% and 3% here. So you kind of have this weird flat area in the middle of this curve return. We're going to turn on 0.1 contours to see that a little more clearly. I can't speak. You see it's kind of a flat spot here where this contour just is almost exactly parallel with the arc. I'm going to go back to regular contours. So we can draw on kind of our high point break line here. I'm just going to go to the midpoint of this arc. I'm going to create a feature line. We'll make it lane break. I'm going to make sure that this curve return also has an elevation point there. And then I'm just going to make a feature line here to kind of set that. We'll go here, perpendicular. I'm also going to do one over here just so I can see what those slopes are, because that's the main thing I care about, is making sure this is 1% and this is 1%, whichever one is more conservative. I'm going to make these also lane breaks. And we're just going to set this slope up at 1% here. Perfect. So this works. Now I just need to add in that temporary feature line to the back of this. And instead of just going all the way here, because that would ignore this break line, I'm just going to make a quick stop here and then go back to where this arc starts. And make this also as lane break. We can go ahead and add all of these to the surface. Remember, we already took our arc off. That's fine. Let's go look at point 1 contour so we can see a little better. Yeah, perfect. So you see we got that nice triangle. Now we just need to get our arc to be on the same page. So let's insert elevation point, I for increment, 5 for every 5 feet. We're going to use assign elevations from surface, FG, click that little arc there. And then now if we look at this in Project Explorer, you can see that it perfectly follows our surface. There's actually not much variation. It almost is a straight grade in this case, but again, that just depends on the exact scenario. So you can almost get away with not having these extra points, but if you look here, you'll see it does change a little bit. It gets a little bit steeper, If I made this more dramatic here, like if I go, I don't know, maybe 3%, let's see, you'll see the grade change a little bit more than you would otherwise. And let's assign this again. Maybe just a little bit more. It kind of goes from like 3 to 4% there. Now we're just going to delete this temporary feature line we drew in here. Delete that. We're going to make sure we add this guy in. And then now we also got a nicely triangulated high point there. We can go back to regular contours and just see what they look like. Perfect. So that's it for this one. That's how you make sure your contours around your curb returns look immaculate. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.